we are going to do the grasses and focus on the grass tribes. And as I prepare to do this, I was thinking about the video we made with Paul Peterson and the current taxonomic concepts, the tribes and how many tribes. And then you look at Mary Barkworth, grasses for North America. She has other tribes, but I'm going to use tribes, but I'm going to use tribes that are probably a 50s, 60s, 1950s, 60s vintage, where it's the most basic morphological groupings. These are not natural clades in a taxonomic sense for classification. The tribes that we'll be using, which used to be the tribes that were recognized, are the easiest way to learn grasses by clumping them into morphological like groups, and then we will provide a booklet which under each of those tribes we're going to give you the most common genera, and that booklet will have a little illustration in the margin of each of those genera, and then we'll generate the most common species for your area as we usually do. So, grasses. How do I know I got a grass? There's things called graminoids. Well, graminoids include juncuses, the juncaceae, the cyperaceae, the sedges, and the poaceae, graminoids. We spend a lot of time going through fruit structures, arrangement of leaves, many things. But the easiest thing, if you're in the field, to know a grass is if you look on the culm, the stem, there's a bumpy part that's called the node or the joint. Grasses are the only ones that have nodes and joints. So if you have a graminoid with a node or a joint, you've got a grass. I'll be using a word, and in the keys there'll be a term called ligule. A ligule is a vegetative key, and it's a little membrane that sits right at the top of the collar of where the blade comes off the culm on the grass, and right there is the ligule. Other than that, the most critical thing to learn about graminoids is the word spikelet. The word spikelet is, if you can't grab the concept of a spikelet, you can't key anything. Everything goes to the spikelet. And how do you tell a spikelet? Well, spikelet is an part of the inflorescence. Here's a raceme. So we come up the pedestal, have a set of glooms, like rabbit ears. And inside these glooms are florets. Now the arrangement of how many florets I have, more than 2 or 3, or 1, or florets equal to the tips, they don't exceed, they're equal to the tips of the glooms, is 3 tribes right there. And then we're going to have some very simple morphological arrangements of the raceme that will sort out 2 more groups. And then I'm going to talk about a unique modification for a modified floret, or gloom rather, in the panicoids that will sort that. So usually when I teach, I use the bromus as my starting example of a spikelet, an arrangement of florets, and the gloom. Because if I take this and pop it, here comes the 2 rabbit ears. I know you can't see that, of the glooms that remain. So the articulation was above the glooms. Where in the panicoids, the disarticulation's below, because you can't pull them apart like that. So we're going to work through the key for all the tribes using 5 terms. And those 5 terms will get you to a tribe. And from that tribe, I'll give you a few of the most common genera in that tribe. I'll just mention them. But the key will provide those for you. And so this is just an introduction to the morphological arrangement of a graminoid, or I should say a poaceae, a grass. So I start with, I have a culm, a stem. I go, oh, I got a big bump here. I got a node or a joint. So I have a grass. Then I go up to the inflorescence, and I have all these little fine stems going out to the last morphological cluster, and that is the spikelet. Now, if I don't spot one, even in any grass, even something this small like this sweet myrtle grass, you can look for the little tiny stems inside this clustered inflorescence, a spike-like inflorescence. So you have to capture that spikelet, the concept of a spikelet, because all the questions will go towards, is the spikelet this, is it that, the glooms in relationship to the flora, or the florets, and it's not very difficult. And so what I'm going to do is now move to the key, where we have a very simple stick key that I use for the tribes, and this works all over the country. And we're going to key the tribes with this key, and we'll post this key, and you'll see that you just need to understand these few terms. So I'm going to stop for a minute, and I'm going to talk about the panicoid arrangement, so when we start running the key here, we can move right through this pretty quickly. Okay, we're going to discuss the panicoids, and in a moment when we start the keying, we're going to talk about, in the grasses, there's two subfamilies, the festicoids and the panicoids. And the panicoids take a little discussion on the modified spikelet. The modified spikelet in a panicoid it has two florets, but we have reduced modified parts, and the illustration will point that out. But in the field, you can't dissect it and look and see if you have a sterile lemma, and then you have a fertile floret. It's not possible. But with a hand lens, you can look at your grass and go to a spikelet. Now, each one of these, what looks like an individual floret, is actually a spikelet, because it's two florets in a modified arrangement. And very uniquely, the bulk, there's another subgroup, and we'll get to that when we get there, with the andropogons, the blue stems, and the Indian rice grass or gastrum. But the rest of all the panicoids, the panicums, the digitellas, the echinocloas, all of them have this modified little spikelet that has, you can see that first gloom, it looks like a turban. It's wrapped around the base of the spikelet, and it sticks out in setarias, everything. And it's the easiest way to look at a panicoid, and you go, oh, I see that little like turban wrap at the base, and you have a panicoid. So these are modified spikelets, and I think from here we'll be able to, when we discuss the andropogons, I'll mention one other modification, but the rest of this, besides these modifications, are going to be the arrangements of the florets to the glooms and how the inflorescence is shaped. To start in the stick key, we start with splitting the two families. Now, we mentioned the panicoids with the modified spikelet that tends to be rounded, and you can think of it as a turtle shell or something, versus flattened. In the festicoids, the florets and spikelets tend to be flattened, and the disarticulation is above the glumes, so when you pull all those florets, you leave the glumes on the stem. Where in the panicoids, when you pop it like that, the glumes come with it, so disarticulation is below. So here I have the grass. Oh, it's got a node. It's got that bump, right? So I got a grass, Graminoid, that is a grass. And I take this grass, I'm going to show you. All right, so I go to the little stick key and it wants to know if articulation's above and is it flattened. And if you look at the spikelets, they are very flattened. So yes, I'm going to get down the festicoid side. This obviously is spike-like. So I'm going to get down the spike-like leaf. And here I'm going to show you how easy this is. If you take this grass and just pull off all these spikelets, you end up with a zigzag brachus. All right, I nickname these the Zigzag Tribe. All right, and we're done. What do we have in here? We have Alamus, Limus, and Andropogon. And those three can be separated so easily that all of a sudden you have a very simple tribe, the Zigzag Tribe as I call it, with three genera. The Agropyron and Alamus, their spikelets are attached. This is the culm this way, and Lolium is attached that way. Agropyron Alamus, Lolium. And there you go. We got a tribe of three genera that quick. Okay, our next tribe. Of course, the first thing I do, I check, yes, I have nodes on the culm, at the joints, and I look at this spikelet. Here you can see the spikelets are all clustered together. There's the little stem, which makes this the spikelet the lowest common denominator. So here's my unit, okay? The inflorescence and each of the individuals are flat. So I have a festicoid, and here you can see the spikes of this, all right? So, and it's one or more spikes, right? Just not one, so I got multiple spikes. And here, this is really simple. All the florets, the spikelets are on one side of this, all right? It's one-sided. Nothing on this side. Everything's off of one side on this spikelet. And so we have this one-sided, the tribes for all the one-sided. And in here we have the Spartinas, the Beckmanias, and we don't even have to dissect yet. We'll pull things apart to get the two genera. It's one-sided, okay, spike-like with one or more spikes that are one-sided, all right? And we go there, and it's either going to be Beckmania or Spartina for our most common wetland grasses. And we have just done this tribe, which is the Chloridii, the last tribe was the Hardii, which was the rye tribe, okay? And so now we've done the rye, the Hardii, and the Chloridii, which are all the Spartinas and Beckmanias. All right, the next tribe. Okay, we have a swollen node, we have a grass. I go to the inflorescence, to the raceme, and I look for that final little stem, and I have a very small spikelet. I take that, and I put it in my hand. You won't be able to see this, and when I crush it, I look inside, and there's only one floret, okay? So that actually sorts us to a whole tribe. So if we go down our key, here we have a raceme, not a spikelet, no one-sided stuff, no zigzag tribe. We go down and ask, how many florets are in each spikelet? And there's only one, and that is the agrostidae. So you get Calamagrostis, Agrostis, let me see. Phleum, Polypogon, Alopicurus, Cinna. All right, our next tribe. We're moving right along. So we don't have the unique rounded spikelet with the turban. We have our standard, just like the big brome, the flattened spikelets or flattened florets. And I look inside, I find that lowest common denominator, that spikelet, and I go, oh, I got multiples here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 spikelets inside each gloom. Probably that's a variable number. We're going to get the question, are the florets about equal to the point of the glooms, or do they exceed it going up? And this particular grass, the florets exceed the glooms, and so the glooms are shorter than the first floret. Another way of phrasing it, and that takes us right to the Festucae, and that's a tribe that has, I'll just read them to you, Phragmites, Dactylus, Poa, Bromes, the Fescues, the Glyceria. Now, a lot of those are really easy to tell apart at the genus level. Almost all the Poas have a cobwebby floret, not all, but most, and the Festucas have an awn. So there you got 2 genera. Then the managrasses, the can't think of it. Well, the Glycerias, the managrasses, have these florets and the glooms that are heavily veined. And a lot of times when I teach, I hand signals. If I go like that, we have a Glyceria. But the thing is that the florets exceed the glooms. They come up. And so we have a very large tribe here. These are all the cold season grasses, and I'll review that when we start looking at more of the panicoids. That a lot of these are much more common in the northern and western areas, or at least the northwest, than the southeast, where you have these, but they're more like your spring grasses, and you're dominated by the warm season grasses, the panicoids. Okay, our next tribe. All right, I looked. I don't have that turban, that modified inflorescence or set of glooms and spikelet. I have our regular type, and that being that I have a set of glooms, I have multiple florets, but this time they are equal more or less to the tips of the gloom. So when I go to our stick key, I move down, I have a panicle, and I don't have the zigzag, I don't have the one-sided, I don't have one floret. I have multiple florets, but unlike the Festucae, here my florets are equal about to the gloom. So, and in this case you get Danthonias, Avinias, which are very common in the west, especially on the west coast, and these are, the tribe is very common, but it's not a very diverse tribe as far as the wetlands are concerned, but very easy to tell apart. Just strictly, can I count the number of florets, and are they equal to the glooms, or do they exceed? Because if they exceed, I got a Festucae. If they're equal, I have the Avinii, and that's the tribe Avinii. Here's a grass that I think on this one, we're going to start a little different. I'm going to do the Graminoid Crunch. And the reason is, the easiest way to identify this plant, or this grass, is to crunch out a bunch of the florets, and there they are. At the base, you have one fertile with a set of sterile florets at the base, and that is the canary tribe, or the Phalidae, and you have Phalaris and Anthroxus, the sweet vernal grass. But this Phalaris is very common all over the country. So when we get down our stick key, we're already, no, we don't have zigzag, one-sided. It looks like it has one floret. So you might want to, you'll go, oh, I got an agrostity. But if you look at the base of the fertile floret at the bottom, you'll see either there can be darkened, which makes them very obvious, almost black, or two fuzzy club things, and that's the sterile florets of the tribe Phalidae. All right, looking into this inflorescence, it looks like a spike. I can see my individual spikelets, and there is that turban, that one-sided basal gloom of the sterile floret. So I'm in the panicoid side of the house, and when I get there in our key, it actually we have a very simple illustrations saying spikelets not in pairs versus spikelets in pairs. And next I'll do the andropogons, and you can see, but all these panicums, this is the Ceteria, and the list goes on and on, are all these with the modified spikelet that have that lower gloom that looks like a turban wrapped at the base. And these are all the warm season grasses. That's why this time of the year, when it's way warmer in the north, our warm season or C4 grasses are all in bloom. But in the south, and especially the southeast, these are common. These are your the warm season panicoids are your almost #1 subfamily of grasses and the tribe. And if you go to the southwest, you get into Arizona, New Mexico, you pick up a lot more of the same warm season grasses, but different genera. So this is the Paniceae, and I can quickly tell that by looking, and there's that roundish spikelet with that one gloom at the base that looks like a turban wrap at the bottom that distinguishes the tribe. Okay, our last tribe we're going to do for now, and that is, as I look into these parts of the raceme and I spread them, I'm finding at each one of the points two spikelets together. Okay, now remember when we talked about the panicoids, one was fertile, one was infertile. Well, this is the same thing. However, these look more like a traditional, so to speak, spikelet, but they're in pairs. And so that gets us over the pairs, gets us over to the panicoids, and the two of them together takes us to the andropogoni, and all the andropogons and sorghastrum, the Indian rice grass is in here, and these are the big blue stems, and they're very common throughout the east and parts of the west. In the fall, when they get the anthocyanins, which give them the purplish stems, which are referred to as blue stems. And so they have the double spikelets together in the inflorescence arrangement of the tribe for the andropogons, andropogony.